Please welcome Mark Wallace.
Well, thanks, Danny, and thanks all you for being here. I was admiring your multitask. I was basically talking and preface at the same time. And as you mentioned, Riverfront Conservancy, we have a lot of obligations, a lot of responsibilities we've taken on. But I want to start by saying how wonderful it is to be here with you all today. We started off our day with a walk by the riverfront, and there were some guys out there fishing some boats right next to the waterfall, and I am very jealous of that. Andy says, you have salmon in your river, which we do not in Detroit. So I kind of want to throw my waders on it. It's also obviously a very healthy city. We should be very proud of what you've accomplished in this place that you've created together as a community. And it seems like it's a growing city as well. It seems like there's a focus on the urban lifestyle. And when we think about cities, it really comes back to one thing, which is we want to live close to people. There are plenty of places everywhere in Michigan where you can live an isolated lifestyle with a great backyard and maybe some trees. But there are special things that happen when we come together. And I like the way Andy framed it, that if you look around the room here today and you think about who's doing what, there are probably 150, 200 projects represented by the people around the tables. And having worked on riverfront projects in Toronto, Chicago, and Detroit, I would hazard to say that this project will be one that you're most proud of when you think back on your careers and what you've accomplished. Riverfronts are magic, and I say that often because it's true. There's something special about water. It's inside of us, it draws us together, it literally impacts the solar system and the cycles of life. And starting with that as a place to start is almost cheating. And you should cheat because you need every advantage possible to accomplish these things. I'm going to give you a little organizational history, a little background about what we've accomplished in Detroit, and also focus a little bit about the governance and how we maintain what we do. The Riverfront Conservancy was started in 2003 by my predecessor, Faye Alexander Nelson, who's an amazing leader, who's now at the Kellogg Foundation. And at that time, there was a real crisis of confidence in Detroit. We had seen generations of community assets taken away from our community. We've seen things that were built, not maintained well. And we knew that when we started this project at the Riverfront, we needed to make a series of promises to the community. And the first of those promises is we promised stewardship. And this is the first chunk of that commitment that we have in our materials and in our mission statement. We wouldn't build anything without knowing how we're going to maintain it. We do all the cleaning, we do all the landscaping, we do all the security, we do all the construction. And that's not a healthy model, and I'll tell you why. I have answers to questions afterwards. But we really have taken on a lot. And I think the idea of focusing on who's going to maintain the assets before you start building the assets is something that you've heard from Anna over the course of the conversation today. We also believe that the Detroit Riverfront is a world-class asset. Your river here is a world-class asset as well. I think you all know that. There's a reason your community is named after this place. And for us, the most important aspect of this is the Detroit Riverfront is a really important gathering place for our community. And it's a place where everyone feels welcome. I'm happy to talk about the strategies we've deployed to ensure that this is the case. And also how we talk about it, but this has always been the punctuation mark of our mission statement, a world-class gathering place for all. If we just built this for General Motors employees or for out-of-towners to come down or for local folks to enjoy it, it would not have had the mix that makes the Detroit Riverfront so special. Our founding partners were pretty remarkable folks. General Motors built the first portion of the Riverwalk and donated it to us, which is a remarkable investment and a remarkable commitment from an amazing corporation. That was about 7 CEOs ago, so they don't talk about it as much as we'd love for them to do. They should take so many victory laps for this. And it's really amazing that they did that. The Kresge Foundation gave us $50 million, which is the biggest grant to date that they'd ever made. And then the city of Detroit came in and provided us some land to build a Riverwalk on. They had assembled some property to build casinos went elsewhere. That property became available for the Riverfront. There's also one sad thing about this slide. You'll notice 2 out of our 3 founding partners went bankrupt between the time we were founded and the time we're standing in today. So again, it goes back to the question of who is maintaining these spaces when your community leaders go through downtimes, because there's so many things to keep the ball up in the air as you're moving through phases and natural cycles of a community. The transformation has been pretty remarkable. 2 blocks away from the GM headquarters, there's a dirt road and a series of 3 cement silos. That's been transformed into a state park, beautiful plaza. The city's rebuilt the streets. General Motors, when they purchased the rent center, had a surface parking lot behind the building, which is not a good use of space. It's been transformed into an amazing water feature. This was originally intended to be a sculptural element, and the children of Detroit looked at it and said, no, it belongs to us. And General Motors, again, amazing leadership. Instead of saying, no, let's put up a sign saying no kids. They literally replaced it. It has chlorine in the water now, so kids can spend all day there and be safe. And incredible leadership. Cullen Plaza has been transformed from a boat dock to a beautiful place where a lot of people can come together. We have a carousel here, bike rental facility, security command center. Milliken State Park is an amazing investment from the state of Michigan, named after Governor Milliken, who recently passed away. Again, you see the history of industry there has been transformed into a series of native wildlife habitats, including a stormwater mitigation area. Stroh's River Place, we have it built into the water, so you see the boardwalk we created there. Looking back toward the Renaissance Center, this view has been transformed, kind of like that because the boat is the same boat. A much better location. Mount Elliott Park is one of 2 city parks that was given to us to steward. As you can see from here, the city would cut the grass once or twice a year. We transformed this into a splash pad for kids. Most kids in Detroit will never go to Disney World. Most of them don't get down to any of the splash pads in the parks or Cedar Point, so this is really a special place for our community. Cave River Shark Park is also a city park. It's been transformed into a beautiful series of butterfly gardens. The Detroit River sits at 2 flyways of wildlife, birds, and butterflies come together. And when our landscape architect said, hey, we can build some butterfly gardens, we're like, well, what's it going to look like? It looks pretty. And we have a bunch of butterflies there, which is kind of cool, double dip in terms of impact. The DeQuitta Cut is a 2-mile greenway that connects Eastern Market, which is our farmers market down to the waterfront. And Eastern Market and the waterfront are the most diverse gathering places anywhere in the city. And it's really amazing. This is an old train line. It's been transformed into a biking path and walking path. We did not build this, but we took responsibility for maintenance and operations. That's one of the things I like to sort of emphasize in terms of a lesson learned. There are certain projects that are coming to us, some of which we're taking the responsibility for fundraising for the capital, the operations, and some of which we're just saying if somebody else builds it, yeah, we can use our contracts, we can use our leverage to hire landscape and security officers to use our practices to maintain these spaces. But we're very intentional about what we take on, what we don't take on. And at the end of the day, your cleaning, your security, your maintenance is really a function of hours and people. Nobody's going to be able to buy it cheaper than anybody else. No one's going to be able to manage it at a significantly better rate than anyone else, as long as you have thoughtful people who are doing it. So we're kind of agnostic as to who would take on those responsibilities. But as a non-government entity, we're able to hire these things in a very appropriate way. And also, if somebody comes onto our team and they treat people poorly, or they're not thoughtful about what they're doing, or they're slacking, it's super easy for us to push a button and get them out there. Super easy. For those of you who work in government, you know what I'm talking about. It's not easy. That's content. So I encourage you to think about meeting areas and providing us with leverage. The most recent park we opened is named after one of the grandchildren of the Carhart family. Robert Valet took Carhart from a $5 million a year company to a $300 million a year company. So the reason we know the name Carhart today is because of this man. He loved the riverfront. This area is a huge sort of sandy beach vibe. We have a barge at the waterfront. You can see a little bit zoomed in here, some food and beverage options as well. This would be a really cool space when it gets going. For us, we think we're in the business not of transforming a riverfront, but of changing people's lives. And we measure our impact by how people's lives are changed. We have 3 million visitors to the waterfront on an annual basis. About 320,000 are touching the program that we provide. You can see sort of down the list. I won't go through all these stats. We do intercept survey work, so we stop people and say, hey, can you tell us your zip code? Also, is this the first time you've come to the riverfront? Also, why did you come to the riverfront? That's it. We don't ask income, we don't ask race, we don't ask gender. We just want to know, is this your first visit? Because that's important. Where you're coming from, what we've seen is an amazing diversity. It's about an equal split of Detroiters and suburban visitors, which is amazing, 20% coming from outside of the region. That's super unusual. If you go to Navy Pier in Chicago, it's 100% tourists. If you go to Millennium Park in Chicago, literally across the street, it's probably 90% Chicago residents. So for us to have this mix is really pretty exciting and special. We do a lot of programming. I won't go into detail on these. We do a fishing program. Kids don't have to have a fishing pole. We teach them how to fish. About 60,000 people come through our walks and our runs. We have a reading program. That's Mary Barra. The kids have no idea who Mary Barra is. They get pretty excited. 5,000 books we give away on an annual basis, which is very impactful. Get kids excited about the place. Yeah, they get to ride the carousel, so they're more excited about than the books, but they do go home with a book. And that changes people's lives over time. We do a touch-up truck program, very inexpensive, very difficult to manage, but very effective for us to get people on the waterfront. We do a huge festival, focused explicitly on getting people down for their first visit. When we opened up the Riverwalk, we needed to get people down, and music and food are kind of like recreational drugs for public space. I wouldn't encourage you to depend on them, but 100%. Use them wisely. That's mixing with shots. It's beer. It's the craft beer of public space. It's very difficult to keep a space alive just on special events, but it's also a great tool to get people down for that first visit to be like, oh, what's new? What is here that wasn't here before? And start to sort of plant those seeds for people to come down on their own. We list this slide because the partnerships are so good, and as a nonprofit, we're able to say yes, and we're able to do a lot of creative things that other agencies and other entities would not be able to do. It works for us. I have no idea about the infrastructure here, but I encourage you to think about how to bring partners to the table and how to leverage off relationships, because we can't build every organization. You know, we can't start a reading program, we can't start a nature program, we can't start a yoga program, but we can find a yoga program, bring them down to the water. And it's a really simple move. It's a pivot that works really well for us. We're about to do a really big project on the West Riverfront to kind of finish this whole thing. And we started this project by taking Detroiters on field trips. And we took them to Chicago, Philadelphia, and New York City. And we intentionally didn't invite anybody who ever shows up to community meetings. And you guys all met at community meetings. You know that a lot of times the bike person comes out and talks about the bikes. And the stormwater person comes out. That's all I want to talk about. And we were kind of tired of these single issue voters coming to us and saying, oh my God, the folks need to do yes. We're like bike friendly. What do you really want to see? Like, what's the big idea here? What does this community need that the community doesn't have? How do you come together? What do we love in Grand Rapids? What do we love in Detroit? So for us, opening people's eyes to what was possible in some of these other great cities really elevated their aspiration for us. And also got us out of just talking to the bike person, the stormwater person. We still talk to them too. We hosted an exhibition. I'd be happy to go into this if there are questions about it. But we had 8 design teams out of 26. We had 4 present their materials, representing some of the greatest design companies in the world. We hired an amazing team led by Michael Van Valkenburg, who's one of the premier landscape architects in the world, and Sir David Adjaye, who is arguably the best architect alive today anywhere in the globe. A great list of down card talent as well. Sir David has designed the African American History Museum in DC. Michael's done Magnolia Park in Brooklyn Park in Chicago. And the project that we have moving forward to open in 2022 is the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Centennial Park. Ralph Wilson was an incredibly talented business leader. He started the Buffalo Bills. And when he sold the Buffalo Bills, he said, you know, take all the money from my businesses, give that to my friends and my family. But the money from the bills, let's give that to the communities, give it back to the people. So all that money should go to Detroit and Buffalo, New York. And at the time, people expected that would maybe generate $300 million, $400 million. He sold it for $1.2 billion. And they committed $50 million to this project, which is remarkable. Of that 50, worth it note, $10 million is going into an endowment, and 40 is going into the park capital. And that's not enough to build the park. Leaves some skin on the bone for other organizations and individuals to get involved. The endowment is not enough for us to run the park, but those are two big statements in terms of how we organize ourselves going forward. We'll have a major swimming area. We call it the Cove, with a great fishing pier. In the wintertime, it should freeze over because it won't be 4 or 5 feet deep for about half of the distance. We have an amazing team working on the playground area, lots of slides, lots of creatures to climb on. A great area for water play for the kids. The idea is taking some of the great places around Michigan and amplifying them in an urban environment. Sir David has designed an amazing command center with our security, a little bit of indoor spatial programming, and a cafe. And his signature move is the sport house, which is just gorgeous. The idea is if God came down and cut a circle out of the earth and lifted it up and put it on stilts, what would it feel like to be under that space? You have this beautiful reveal around the edge. Yes, there's that clean, dirt-covered ceiling up above you. This is also very intentionally designed to be a magnet for teenagers. And a lot of parks are afraid of teenagers, and I encourage you not to be afraid of teenagers. We're being presumptuous, hoping the Pistons will come down sometime. Also getting known for money, and of course, these several special events. And I wanted to talk about our board just really briefly, because this doesn't happen unless people work together. And again, I'm not sure how you're organized. It's great to hear county, it's great to hear city, it's great to hear that different people are thinking about the impact area, because everyone's got to be in this. And Matt Cullen, who is our founding board chair, is just a magic human being, one of my favorite people. He was the executive of General Motors, and he likes to say that any one person could have killed this project. Which might sound like a bad way to sort of end my part of the conversation today, but he started with a small table and just kept adding people. And we needed 7 different property owners to say yes. We needed the city, the county, the council, the state to say yes. So we have 30 ex officio members who are just members because they sit in a certain seat. They're full voting members. We have up to 25 at-large members. Right now we're 45, so we have a couple spots for people to join. The demographics, you see the breakdown there in terms of diversity across a couple of strata. We have some property owners and residents who are members of the board as well. So special members, it's funny, we were just throwing this together. I forgot to put Senator Carl Levin on the list because it's such a, Andy described this as a good cocktail party. It's a really good cocktail. But amazing people who support us. We're organizing the 6 committees very briefly that you see here. This is a way for us to get even more people involved. So the total membership in committees and board is probably up above 100, 110 people who are involved in working on this project in some way. And I just wanted to kind of highlight the executive committee, partially because I got to meet with them tomorrow, and partially because you're thinking about how you're organized moving forward. But Matt runs this. He's the head of Bedrock, which is the largest real estate company in the state, works with Dan Gilbert. You see some leaders in the philanthropic community, Kresge being such a huge investor, is on the executive committee. This is Mary Nolan from the Community Foundation, Jenny Hudson Park from the Hudson River Foundation, Larry Alexander from the Visitors Bureau. You have 3 folks, the President Pro Tem of City Council, the Chief of Staff for the Mayor, and the head of the Detroit Mountain Growth Corporation on the city side. We also have on our board, but not on our executive committee, the chair of the Wayne County Commission. And then the heads of each one of our committees sits on the board as well. So Pam Rogers, very successful businesswoman. Eddie Seaver's retired from General Motors in the city. John Blanchard from General Motors, and John Hardy from U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We don't do this without all these people. And I'd encourage you to think about ways you can collaborate because you will not regret it. This is a special moment